Permaculture, what is it? That's what we'll be discussing today in the gardening show. Let's go. If you've been in the gardening community for any amount of time, you've probably heard the word permaculture, and you might have wondered what it is. But before I get too much into explaining just what permaculture is, I want to talk about the man behind the movement, Bill Mollison. Throughout his life, Bill did many different things and worked a number of professions. He worked as a wildland surveyor, he was a biologist, and also a university teacher. And the idea of permaculture came to him while he was helping to reforest an area for the CSIRO, which is a federal government agency for scientific research in Australia. And he was helping to reforest an area that they had cut back in the Tasmanian rainforest. And while he was trying to reforest that area, Bill was running into trouble with the wallaby, the kangaroo, and some of the other kind of animals. They were coming in, destroying the land he was trying to reforest. He started to live trap them and move them about 9 miles away. And then after doing this for a while, he was just sitting back one night and thinking, and the idea came to him that he said to himself, I could definitely design a system better than this. So from that idea, permaculture was born. Years later, Bill did design that system, and he put all of his ideas into a curriculum and in a book. And this is it, the Permaculture Designer's Manual. And this is still the basis for all permaculture because Bill Mollison, he was actually the developer and the founder of permaculture. And now, let's get into the garden tip of the week. This week's tip has to do with permaculture, and it's if you're going to add any component into your system, try to make sure that that component fulfills multiple roles. For instance, if you're going to put a fence in, try to make sure that that's a fence you can grow something up. It can act as a trellis, and maybe even use that fence as a windbreak. Try to put it in a location if you can. Block maybe a northwest wind. This way your plants in the garden will just flourish. Now that we know how permaculture was founded, we can actually get into what it is. So the word permaculture is a blending of two words, permanent and agriculture, but permaculture deals with a lot more than just agriculture. So later they expanded it to a blending of the words permanent and culture. Permaculture is about designing sustainable human settlements and preserving natural systems. And because permaculture deals with more than just agriculture and stuff, there has to be some ethics, so we'll get into those first. The first ethic is to care for the earth. The second ethic is to care for people. And the third ethic is to set a limit on population and consumption. Personally, it's not the ethics of permaculture that really drew me in. It's the overall system of design, the ecological management of things, and the way they approach nature. The mindset of permaculture is that things are in cooperation rather than competition. And we aim to make as many connections, beneficial connections, as we possibly can, and look at nature as the teacher and look to work with nature rather than against it. That's one of the things I really love about it and what really drew me into permaculture. Bill says we have to get our houses and our gardens in order, working for us, or we're just gonna have to continue to lay waste to all natural systems to sustain us. Because the system, the design we're in right now, what we do, it's just not sustainable. The main focus of permaculture, and the word that I want you to take away from this video, is design, functional design. Permaculture in itself is nothing new. It's just arranging things that are already there in a different order so that it produces or conserves more energy than it takes. Let's move on now to the video of the week. This one is just a classic. Geoff Lawton, one of my favorite permaculturists, and if you haven't heard of him, he's basically the one that Bill Mollison passed the torch down to. Just last year, Bill Mollison actually passed away in September, which was a sad day, especially for anyone who's into permaculture. But Geoff Lawton now has the Permaculture Research Institute, and he's kind of taken the torch. And this is him back in 2013, a real classical video, one that really inspired me. You can see right as the video starts, Geoff's in his food forest. He's in front of an old stump. 10 years ago, he shows what the property looks like. It was just all cattle farm. There it is right there. 10 years ago, you can see just basically desolate, not desolate, but just grass. And now, 10 years later, an abundant food forest. I love this overshot picture too. Just shows the testament of permaculture principles at work. Look at all the trees in there. Look at all the extra growth he's got. He's getting so much photosynthesis, and he's creating so much biomass by just taking in all that solar energy and converting it into carbon and just refertilizing it, building more fertility, and that system is just becoming more sustainable and producing more and more every year. So beautiful as he goes through the property. The pictures, it almost looks like a wildlife reserve or something. That's what happens though when you don't use chemicals and you work with nature. I love the shot when he's walking through the bamboo and he talks here for a minute. So beautiful with his kid on the back and his dog running with him. Just a beautiful picture. I love that. Wanted to show that. But you guys should really watch this video and learn a lot from Geoff because he's one of the best. I learned a lot from Geoff. I learned a lot from many different people, but Geoff is one of my favorite teachers. And you can see here, he has chickens in the food forest, but he's got the ratio right where he doesn't have too many chickens in the food forest, and most of his food forest looks like it's all basically perennials and wooded species. You have to be careful when you have chickens in the food forest though. It has to be older and more mature or they could really do some damage. And Geoff also uses the chickens to start his food forests. So it's a beautiful system how the chickens start the food forest and then later they get to live in it. Well, not them, but later generations. It's just a beautiful cycle. And that's a lot of what permaculture is, just following those cycles and events and using those events and cycles to actually benefit you and the whole entire system. Geoff Lawton is one of the masters at putting components in and having it work in many different ways. Here he uses the goats. He brought the goats into the system so that the goats will eat a lot of the trees in the food forest that are kind of weed trees. He'll cut them out and bring the limbs to the goats. The goats will eat those leaves and have the food, and then that leftover branches, he can use that for firewood. So he's feeding the goats and getting milk from them, clearing out his forest so he can plant new things in there, and he's also getting firewood. So he's, with just adding goats, he's getting so many different things from it, and nothing's being wasted, so there's no pollutants, because a pollutant is just an unused resource within a system. That's all of this video that I'm going to go through with you guys, but I do suggest watching it. I'll leave a link down in the description. You can check it out. In the future, if you guys want, I can get more into permaculture principles and how you can apply them into your garden. So if you want to see more of that, just let me know in the comment section. All right, guys, now we're going to end the show with one of my favorite segments, Garden Memes of the Week. So this week we had 2 submissions and only 2. So you guys got to step the game up for real. This is one of my favorite segments. I want to keep it going. So I need your submissions because I like to just be able to see them and like not having seen them before on camera. This way it's like new to me also. So make sure you put your submissions in. I'm going to put the link right, the email right here, and you can put it in, thegardenshowjp@gmail.com. So let's open the first one right now. I open it up here. It says family garden expectation. It looks like a happy little family around plants. Look like they're really enjoying life versus reality. You got a lady chasing someone around with a baseball bat. I love it. That's kind of how it gets sometimes out there. Things can get frustrating. Luckily, I work really well with my brother and stuff. He's one of the ones who helps film it. So if you guys like the filming, I know you guys shout out a lot of times that the filming is getting better and better and the camera work. So that's a testament to him. So give him a little shout out in the comments. And I'll open the second one up now. This one's from Palmetto Prepper. I hope I said your name right. And I saw this one already. It was so funny though. Yeah, you've got the Batman and Robin. Batman's slapping him. Robin says first, my grandpa said Tilda, slap. Stop touching stuff. That's really how it is. It really is. Especially if you're not a lazy person and you like to get out there and you're an organized person, you want things in rows. Sometimes it's hard to just step back and let nature do it. And that's some of what Masanobu Fukuoka's teaching was. It's not just about what can you do, what can you do. Sometimes it's what can you step back away from, what don't you have to do. Bill Mollison talks about it also. Sometimes you can step in too much and just ruin the system. He talks about how he'll go on vacation sometimes and come back, and it's better when he came back than when he left. Thanks for your submissions, guys. And anyone else in the future who wants to have their meme in the video, just send it to this email right here. And you can be in the video too. I'll give you a shout out. But before I go, I wanted to give a personal shout out to Karen. Thank you so much for your support, for your kindness. She said she went all the way back to the beginning and watched some of the videos. And she brought up a video that people usually don't watch. And it's one that I really think is important. And it was really, concrete to our whole design. So thanks for taking the time to go back and watch those. I appreciate it. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for following along. See you in the next one.